RTD Live Talk, streaming live on a Friday evening. Figure I would log on and see who's available, see who's interested in having a little back and forth. Wanted to talk about something that I think is very timely as the government shutdown looks like it might be at a stalemate for about 3 weeks or so as I'm watching on the news. So I just watched some Lou Dobbs and had a couple of thoughts I wanted to share. So I figured I'd log on and say what's up, see who's available, see who's, just not doing much this evening. My day is pretty much over with, so I thought I would just connect with you guys. And so as you can tell from tonight's chat, just going to be brief, but want to get your thoughts and see what you guys might be thinking on relation to this whole government shutdown, as well as more importantly, the sudden ramp up in the need to promote democracy in Venezuela. And so based upon last night's conversation, I wanted to share my thoughts even more today about how it's very interesting how whether or not, Maduro's elected officially or he manipulated and rigged the election, who knows? But once again, what does that have to do with us? How come and why are we out here trying to promote democracy and the freedom of election and helping the people when we ourselves right now in this country have been in a state of complete disarray over the last 36 days with the government shutdown? And so when it comes to democracy and what's in the best interest of the people, we are not leading the way as far as being a good model of what democracy is all about. Even though my heart of heart, democracy is man's best attempt for government, but it's failing miserably. And so right now, who are we as a country to be out here dictating who and what and should be govern a nation that has nothing to do with us except our own interest, which happens to be their natural resources. And so as you guys saw from the little thumbnail, I want to share with you a map. And so when I saw this, I'm like, I definitely got to stream this. But if you check out this map, it's called Battle for Venezuela. So here we have, just recently, I was watching this on Lou Dobbs. And so we have all the countries in red that are backers of Maduro. And then all the countries in that, teal or whatnot, are all the U.S.-led nations that are for Guaido, or whatever his name is, Juan Guaido, the 35-year-old self-appointed president of Venezuela, with the backing of the full, as I think I read somewhere about the full faith and support of the American public. And so my question to you is, are you supporting the intervention of the United States government in another foreign affairs in another country, dictating who should be president in that country, as if like that has anything to do with us directly? Are you in approval of this, or is this just what the mainstream media will love to have the majority of people believe that we support? Because if you are labeled a Trump supporter, then you support anything Trump chooses to do as far as his dictates that he's putting out there himself on who he gives approval for another nation. Like, that doesn't make any sense. But if you look at how lopsided this approval rating is of nations that have given Maduro the axe in comparison to those that gave that Guaido guy a thumbs of approval. And it's interesting how in South America itself, the continent of South America, how there's only 2 nations that are in support of Maduro. And it happens to be long-term, I wouldn't say dictators, but long-term political figures that's been in power for quite some time. We got the Bolivia president, Morales, I believe his name is. And then we have Uruguay in support of Maduro. And then right above Ecuador, we got Nicaragua. And so Nicaragua, we know, is in a state of flux over the last year. So we know they still got major issues. And I would encourage you guys just to YouTube Nicaragua, and you'll see some of the latest postings of citizens there to show how militia still runs that country, to where, of course, as an American, it's not safe to go there, I would imagine. But we got 3 supporters on this side of the globe. Three supporters: Nicaragua, Bolivia, and Uruguay as supporters of Maduro, and that's it. And then on the other side of the planet, we got Russia, Iran, Turkey, China, and Albania. And so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So 8 nations support. And then we have more than 10 that disagree with Maduro being in power. So I'll say all that. We got a clash of the Eastern Hemisphere versus the Western Hemisphere. This is why this is so important in my opinion, because based upon what the leader of this nation, the United States of America, chooses to do in the next couple of weeks about this dual appointment of a democratically elected president, whether it be Guaido or Maduro, based upon the decisions that come from the White House, will determine the fate of our global political system. Because once again, for those that have not been in tune or had a chance to catch what Putin had to say about this, apparently Vladimir Putin is not too happy with the intervention, once again, of America into the affairs of nations that aren't playing, how would I say it? Not playing the American agenda initiative. And so we always know what happens when the United States of America, unfortunately, goes into a nation to promote and to spread democracy. We know how that country ends up. And so you can just think of all the nations that's been impacted by the our government's intention of spreading democracy, and that as a cover up. They go in there to remove people, and they destroy everything and basically put in puppets and steal the natural wealth or the central bank gold or whatever is in their vaults there to claim for their own special interests. Those that are overseers of our government do that. But yet we also know that more lives are lost than saved in the end, and countries are demolished and the infrastructure demolished. And we know the sad state that happens when the United States of America sweeps through these countries. And so this is what they're trying to do now in Venezuela. And I got a good suspicion, and I'm gonna get to some chats, I'm gonna get some comments in a minute, but I got some good suspicions that Putin's statement that he made, saying that he gave a couple good points, I can't think of them offhand, but a couple good points basically saying that he himself, he probably will, and this is where it get kind of touchy, because I'm not a Putin fan or Putin guy to where I'm like in support of that particular gentleman, but I've realized how the last decade, especially during the last administration, how Putin is a master level chess player. So his strategies and his thought process is always one step ahead of the United States of America. And it was very evident over the whole Crimea annexation process that went down smoothly for Russia. And then when Assad invited Putin into Syria, it seemed to work out well for Assad because his life was spared, and he has an infrastructure of the defensive missile system, which probably saved his life as well as his own presidency, however it came about, whatever, that's none of our business. But then now what's going to happen, I believe, is Putin will eventually, because Russia is doing some training with the Air Force in Venezuela. So what I'm getting at is the idea that I think Putin, in the next week or two or three, might end up sending a couple support teams over to this part of the planet as aid to Maduro. Because, mind you, Maduro has gone out to Russia at least twice over the last year or two, kind of seeing where all this was coming down to, wartime, because we're approaching wartime right now. Those drums are beating louder and louder. And so if you don't believe me, I would encourage you before or whatever during this video, if you want, just type in Venezuela and the U.S. or Venezuela, Trump, and you're going to see several stories. All the mainstream corporate news sources are leading the way right now, talking about Venezuela. And they have countless amount of experts basically coming out with their opinions on how Maduro has lost support of his own army, how Maduro this, how Maduro's that. And then if you guys had a chance to actually listen to Maduro's speech, he gave a live speech this morning that was broadcast. And so I heard the Spanish translation version of it because it's more reliable than the American version side of it. But basically, he is calling out how, the propaganda that is being promoted by the U.S. to where, in his mind, he say things aren't as bad as they really are. But yet we all know how bad it is because, when you got majority of your population leaving because of them starving, the currency not buying, you can't hide the hyperinflation. And we know hyperinflation hurts everybody in that country. So things are bad. Now, how it's resolved, not quite sure. So clearly, it's either two options. You leave it alone or you go in there and remove them. But then the question is, who are we to go in there to remove a man, whether he was elected or not, it's not our business. It's not for us to do. And that's what's bothering me. That's why I wanted to get online tonight to talk about this, just because the war drums are beating. More than likely, we're going to go down there, which is a quick flight from Florida down to Venezuela, and to do some things that won't be no returning back to. Because once again, when you have a good portion of the Western Hemisphere, Russia, China, and Turkey, all allies, all working right now on the after the dollar domination ends, the whole One Belt, One Road process. Maduro is in on that deal as well because of his oil. He has agreements and deals with all these nations over here. And so they're invested in the health and the longevity of Venezuela. And so as an investment piece, I would anticipate China and Russia responding soon with sending support over to help Maduro. So with that being the case, what I believe will happen in the next couple of weeks, give or take, this whole government stuff right here is another diversion tactic outside of what's really going on. And so I believe that, of course, initially Iran was supposed to have been ransacked by now. And so we all saw what happened there. Russia got involved. Russia sold the missile system, which is, I guess, is apparently a good defensive mechanism averse an invasion, because it has some technology that's, our stuff isn't capable right now of defeating. And so with that being the case, Iran, for the most part, at this current moment, apart from the sanctions and their economy crumbling because of, all the things that we're backing out of that deal with them, but yet they still got life. We haven't invaded them yet. And so I think it's all because of Russian intervention. So what I'm saying is I'm getting at the idea that I believe Russia will eventually get into the affairs of Maduro and Venezuela people because of their invested interest in the oil themselves, and the idea that they are trying to basically keep another nation from going under and being completely ransacked. Like what would happen if there was no allies of Maduro to help? Now, I'm not saying that, I'm for Russia supporting Maduro or I'm for Maduro. But what I am against is this continuous lie and this continuous false narrative that the world needs democracy. Like, it's our responsibility as the leaders of the free world to go spread democracy. And what really does democracy do other than give us what we currently have now, where we got a two-party system where they're beefing and arguing over a wall, supposedly, and the wall was not funded, but we get 3 weeks of government expenditures, and then we're gonna be back at the same thing. Like, is that what democracy is? That's what we're telling people? That's what's sound and stable and reliable? I don't think so. So with that being the case, that's just my little introduction rant for this evening. But I want to get into some of your guys' thoughts and whatnot. So let's chit chat. Let me see what kind of thoughts we got out here. Am I on point? Am I on course? Are we heading to war, do you think? Let me know. We got Mike. Good evening. Hello. All about the oil, 100%. We got Tay, K, Tavone. How you guys doing? Hello. As always, for those that are new to RTD Live Talk, if you happen to be catching the first little live stream, whatever, typically not how I do it, but I'm just doing it because I had a quick thought I want to share, just because I kind of got a sense where this is heading, and it won't be pretty for the Venezuelan people, apart from them having somebody to assist them, which I believe Maduro's probably on the phone or will be on the phone pretty soon, asking for some of those S-400 missile launcher defense systems and some Russian support on the ground. Because if he doesn't get any, we're going in there, and Maduro won't be around to see next year, based upon trends and how we intervene and spread democracy with war. Yeah, man. It says, we got Belva. It said it's all about the Russia and Maduro. Okay. How you guys doing? Hinsky, what's up, my friend? Blunt news, exactly. If Maduro had no support, he would be dead. Low blood pressure, 100%. They must fix their own nation. This is the only way to freedom. Outside of intervention fixes nothing. Blunt news, man. Good point. And that's the thing. And it just really tickles me, and it troubles me that, our country right now is not in the greatest terms as far as internally handling our affairs. Like right now, our government is not even seeing eye to eye. The two-party system of what democracy has turned into is not working. Democracy is failing us as a governmental form, because it's going to always have issues, because it's going to promote a two-tier system which promotes classes. It ultimately ends up in those that have and those that don't, with very little wiggle room in between. And the people who might have a say based upon your economic status, you can fund and support your particular ideology or philosophy and get some things done because you got funds. So, it's more so like you gotta, what's that thing called? You gotta pay to play. That's what democracy has turned into, because most of them people they're not really speaking on behalf of the American public, because if they were, they would ask us if we wanted a wall. And most of the people who are in the know that it's more than just a wall, and that a wall is not going to stop, crime and corruption from happening, because there's going to be paid politicians that's going to allow special interests in favor of people to just fly over the damn wall. But yeah, that's just my 2 cents. It says Chinese garrison in Caracas next week. Ain't that snipes? That's very true, man. So definitely, we all know China also have invested interest in that country because they've invested in there. So here's the thing. If you are investing into that particular country, you stand to lose a lot if America goes in and invade. And if America goes in and invade, then you will not be compensated exactly the way you initially thought you would in investing into that country, whether it be direct oil. I think China gets more so oil directly. And I want to say Russia might get oil, but more importantly, get access to this region, just like they have a base off of a base in Cuba. I think they might want a base in that area down there in South America as well as China. And the thing is, it's the same thing. Jill, how you doing? Thanks for tuning in. I think it's the same thing as how we position the American armed forces around the world, to where we have over how many, 100 or whatever bases. And so imagine, like, right now we're still in the South China Sea, dictating and calling shots over there. It's like, that's nowhere near our borders. That has nothing to do with us apart from our own special interests in regards to keeping the status quo going. So we have ships and Navy troops and all that and bases on that side of the planet. So that's the equivalent of, like, you in your house and your next door neighbor allow one of your enemies to set up shop in their backyard, and you got to look over your fence and see your enemy all the damn time. How would you feel about that? You know what I'm saying? You wouldn't be so supportive of your enemy spying through your damn window because they're in the backyard of your neighbor's house. You know what I'm saying? So you're going to have a beef with that. But it's funny that if China tries to put a base on Cuba with some missiles pointing our way, we're going to claim that that's a breach of international war and all that stuff like that. But imagine how, perhaps maybe Russia might feel when NATO's surrounding them with missiles, because they're the bad guy. Ultimately, in my opinion, I don't think the Eastern Hemisphere wants war, because I believe they know what war would lead to, and it wouldn't end pretty. We're past the point of the old style war of boots on the ground, having men fighting each other with guns and bayonets and just trying to shoot each other. That's old. We're in the smart technology, in the smart era of war. And smart means super high tech, lightning speed missile craft and laser beams and all types of things they have out there already. And more importantly, if you're losing a war, unfortunately, you're probably just going to send something over there that's going to, cover some territory and really cause destruction. And so that's where this could possibly head, depending on how this plays out, because I don't think that the Eastern Hemisphere that is in support. So all these red that are in support of this little red country right here, Maduro, they're going to allow all this blue to completely go into Maduro and into Venezuela and remove that guy. I don't see it happening. So I see some support coming from these red countries here, over here. And then once again, we're going to have something to say about that, because we typically, it should be an easier fight on our side of the earth, because we're there right beneath us. But I think there's going to be some troops coming in, or some things done by Vladimir Putin or Xi Jinping pretty soon. So what do you guys think about that? Let me know. Cyber wars. Yep. Yeah, we don't cyber. We don't want to go that far. That really gets ugly. It says right on blunt. It says, don't hate on a country that might be able to save your life from the deep state. And so, Tony, so in regards to me hating on a country, or what? It says, the man sounds like my mind. This channel needs to get bigger. Blunt news. Appreciate that, man. It says, U.S. just cannot stand Russia is ding or going to do military action with Venezuela due to Maduro. U.S. cannot do anything. I would like to think that, Belva, but it's one of them things where so far it looks like the United States of America has done a great job of turning Venezuela's bordering countries against them. So Colombia on one side and Guyana on the other side, they're both in agreement with President Trump. And so they're having border disputes right now on closing the border of Colombia because there's too many people flooding in. And then on Guyana, something with ExxonMobil and Guyana giving land rights and water rights to ExxonMobil, which happens to be a disputed territory between Venezuela and Guyana. So they're arguing right now. And I read somewhere that there's troops on the border of Venezuela trying to defend that territory from some stuff I read online a while ago. So put it like this U.S. endorsement of this 35-year-old Georgetown University graduate with an engineering degree who's a somewhat newly elected political figure. No true political background to my knowledge. Nothing, he don't bring any type of experience that would even really be in the best interest of the Venezuelan people. Like he's a young guy who has more American influence than his own people. And so when I'm hearing our political figures talk about the coalitions and the parties and the groups they're forming to go down there to support this Guaido guy, lets me know that he's already been bought and paid for. So he's not really going to be operating in the best interest of his own people. So if we were to be real, I believe by him even, so if he's going to appoint himself as the real president because of whatever support, because the U.S. government supports him, he's basically he's creating a coup against his own government, whether Maduro was elected officially or not, who knows? We weren't there, we're not there. But the Venezuelan people ultimately are the ones that will have to rise up and remove their government as best they can. This is the Venezuelan people's fight, not the United States of America's fight. Not a fight on the American taxpayer dollar to send army and troops and aid and form teams and committees and all that stuff on the taxpayer dollar when we got our own issues here. I can see if our government was open, everybody's fine, 800,000 workers were getting paid, everybody was happy, and we out of just the generosity of our heart wanted to go down there to help out, and it was a topic on the news. But yet when we got our government shut down that's just freshly open, a couple hours if it's opened, to then have, be talking about democracy as if it's working good for us, and we're going to put that down there, it's definitely not a good thing. And so we got a super chat, says Nidri playing gay, says $5. Appreciate that, my friend. It says UK refuses to return their gold, seems they have had an ongoing gold operation with Turkey. Yeah, so that's another issue. So here's another thing that I'm glad you brought that up. And so the Venezuelan gold is in the vaults. It was in the vaults in London, in the UK. And so Maduro put in a call to have his stuff flown back down. So that's the equivalent of you calling your bank, say, I want to withdraw my funds. And they say, sorry, you can't have your money back. How would you feel when you put your funds there for whatever reason, because you're probably told to, you had to send your gold there as some collateral for the funds and whatever. So now my prediction, and I'm sure playing Nidre, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, that you would agree that gold is not there. And so somebody asked last night, where do I think all the gold comes from? That Venezuelan gold is gone. You can believe that. Just because, according to international law, if they were to go to UN and he was to go to UN and plead for that gold back, they can just prolong it and say, it's not, whatever excuse they can give to prolong this thing to determine the fate of Maduro first. And then, depending on how this thing play out, most likely to be swept under the rug. And so apart from the new administration, if that Guaido guy actually enters into the Pink House, which is their version of the White House, as a U.S.-led endorsed puppet, in a sense, he's not going to talk about gold ever. So that means the gold will be forgotten about. And then that's, that gold is already recasted into kilogram blocks sent out to China, more than likely, in my opinion. It says Russia is going to protect Venezuela, hopefully. And so that's kind of where we lead tonight. Because I figured I had to talk about this. When I saw this little graph, this little visual aid on TV, where it talks about the battle for Venezuela. Like, what you mean a battle? This is a country with, I think, 20 million people or so. Like, what are we battling for Venezuela for? What interest do we have there apart from their natural resources? Could we even care about democracy? Venezuela been crumbling for damn near a decade now, and so all of a sudden now, we care. We want to go and protect and serve and help to help spread the democracy. With that's old, and that narrative of we got to remove dictators all around the world, when it makes us look like we are just we're some bullies. We're over there. We're bullying governments. If they don't play by our rule, we bully them. So Wade says, don't forget that the SPV for Iran starts on Monday. Then Russia just signed a mining contract with Venezuela. Okay, Wade. Okay. Signed a mining contract. So with that being the case, that's Russia invested in there. Russia is going to protect their investment. And so I would imagine that we're going to hear pretty soon an announcement. You won't hear it on corporate mainstream news, but I'll hear about it on the alternative side of things of Russia sending over 5,000 troops and two Navy missile cruisers. I wouldn't sleep that Russia probably sending something in this direction now. And imagine that. Imagine how the U.S. around here and we surrounding all them. But imagine if China sends a couple of them things around Guatemala through the canal, and they got some cruisers coming this way. And imagine having some Chinese and Russian ships parked in the Gulf of Mexico. How uncomfortable would that feel? And of course, we're gonna scream war. We're gonna scream their invasion. It says, watch the gold price. It should start to really taking off about this as far as numbers moving. Yeah, so DPAR. So, I heard I got a little tweet that looks like gold. Okay, yeah, so I was going to say that. Gold is up $23 today. So gold went above $1,300. And so that's, given what's been happening over the last almost damn near decade, when you get above $1,300, that seems like it's a big move. Because as you see, someone mentioned it here, so it's noticeable. And so what we got here, I missed one. It says, Alonzo says, hey, Mike, I believe that Russia and China have war game practice last year. I guess we'll be prepared for something like this. Yeah. Yeah, and that's, good point. So that's the idea that this past fall, Russia and China had war games, some of it done in China and some of it done in Russia. So they are working on terrain and strategies and whatnot for on the ground warfare, and they may even done some naval drills. So, Tony, let me see. Check your last statement. Gold went up $23. Scrolling back, it says, just think that Russia and China conquered all of South America and took over the Panama Canal. That's how we get all our products through to America. So this says, just think that Russia and China conquered all of South America and took over the Panama Canal. That is how we get all our products through. So is that like a what if they did that type of thing or what? Let me know. Because if the shoe was on the other foot, I think that's what you kind of hit at. The shoe was on the other foot and everything was led by those nations there, would we still have the same level of, so that's the plan. But Tony, the only thing with that is I think for Russia and China to gain more influence, even though they're investing in all those countries. But as of now, as we can tell the allegiance of most of these countries because they're in teal. That means they're a part of this backing of Guaido, this new guy. So they're not playing, the presidents of these nations aren't playing ball with these guys here, if that is the case. So the influence hasn't really spread that much over in this region just yet. But I believe a part of that next, economy, that new world order that everybody's working towards, there will be a shift in balance. So I believe that when that One Belt, One Road initiative is up and running and all that boy right there turns red, in a sense, there's going to be a lot more red here because they're going to need to send their products up to this region as a new international trading hub, and that new currency that's going to be issued that the world's going to have to use all around here, while we here still thinking that Federal Reserve notes is not going to be that deal. And I don't see that being the case. It says, J. Cole said, we won't invade Venezuela. I hope not. But because of the support, as I mentioned, that both bordering countries and even Brazil looks like on our map are not really for Maduro, expect some type of intervention on them borders to cause a conflict to where those countries can actually come into Maduro and they can make it look like a South American thing, but it can be influenced by the U.S. if it's not a direct invasion. It says Russia is going to do military practices with Venezuela. Belva, they already are. So the Naval Academy is already there. I saw some pictures. I think I shared it on the community page where Russia, Venezuela, the Air Force, they're training them right now, like on some military strategy type stuff. So Russians are in Venezuela now training when it comes to the aircrafts. So it's up and running now. So King Spring says Trump needs a war and he's picking on a small country he thinks he can defeat easily. Yeah, and I think a part of this urgency of spreading democracy in Venezuela is because of just the continuous need. We need to promote, we need growth, economic growth. And what better way to, spur growth other than a war budget? Like we're going to need, how many countless billion to fund the army to go down there to do what we got to do. So, war is the reason why this is it's a profitable industry, apparently, because all the war drums are always beaten. And since Iran is still standing because Russia intervened in their affairs with some protection, in a sense, we were not able to go in there and bomb the hell out of them. So we got to go bomb somebody else, I think. So the U.S. will use CIA snipers and covert ops. James, man, that's some pretty detailed stuff there. I don't doubt it. I don't doubt it 100%. And so here's the thing. Here's another thing worth considering. If the U.S. is supporting this self-appointed president, Juan Guaido, then it's good to say that Juan Guaido is in Venezuela right now. It might be in the Caracas area, in the capital area. It's good. I would imagine that Maduro would consider that a treasonous act against the Constitution, as during his speech today, he was talking about how the Constitution, in that little book he's holding up, was saying that, he's defending his little bitty book. And so because he's defending that little bitty book, I would imagine that he would consider another guy appointing himself as vice president or president could be considered treason. And if it's treasonous, I would imagine that he would probably go pick up homeboy, that Guaido guy, and detain him and all his supporters. You would suppress that. If it's an enemy combatant in your own country, you're going to suppress that by taking care of that guy. But why is that not happening? Because I would imagine there's already some operatives and some military forces that we sent, some special ops type stuff down there to be his own personal security. That's why this guy's able to put up a fight in his own country, because he has some forces around him that's not native, I would imagine. It says, go on the Big Picture Project net and read The Present to see the future about the life and death, which can change the world from page 1. Okay, good stuff there. As always, appreciate. I see somebody sharing. It says $5 billion contract with Russia. There you go, Wade. I appreciate that, man. So you put a link here with some resources to what we're talking about here. Greetings, George Gregory. How you doing, my friend? Welcome to the live stream. Just wanted to get on and share my thoughts. For those that are joining in late, you see from the subject matter, but it's all in relation to this little visual aid here that I not visual aid, but I was watching the news, just getting caught up on the day, and I saw this graph about the battle for Venezuela. And then I thought to myself, like, I'm not no damn battle for Venezuela. I don't have any special interest in Venezuela to where I feel that I am in support of my government to go there and intervene in their affairs. But then just look how lopsided this thing is. It's the Eastern Hemisphere versus the Western Hemisphere. That's what it boils down to. We got two worlds colliding in a country that only has about maybe 20 million residents, give or take. And it's not going to end pretty unless Maduro gets some help down there. And so I'm kind of, and so somebody let me know if you feel me on this, but sometimes I kind of feel torn in between truth and justice and what's right, doing what's right, and not this whole narrative of spread democracy, because we all know that that's not the true reason we do what we do from this country. And so when I thought about what happened with Syria, how Russia came into Syria and pretty much saved Assad and kept him in power, because if Russia didn't go, we would have went in there once that red line was crossed from President Obama to whatever a couple years ago, when he drew the line in the sand. Instead, it was crossed over the gas attack that was, not proven to be, factual. But anyway, so my thought is that Russia always seems to outthink us anyway. So I would imagine that I anticipate Putin getting involved or China getting involved, not only because they have invested interest in there, but I think the Western Hemisphere, this part of the world here, the Eastern Hemisphere, they're tired of the bullying of this led agenda over here. So I can see they're working on their game plan for after this system collapses with the Belt and Road Initiative and all the other unions that they formed. They got the Russia, Kazakhstan, Azerbaijan, and some other little union that Russia got going on. So everybody got their own little packs, their own little unions over here. They're getting ready for after the fact. They got time. They got time to be, in my opinion, messing around with, us trying to save our last little bit of special interest. You know what I'm saying? So they trying to move on. So I don't really think they got time for this, but they got to prevent us from rolling through countries still in the midst of them trying to set up their own little warfares. And then we point the blame at them saying that they're the enemy. I really don't believe that anymore, is what I'm getting at. So Blam Blam says, I love the facts. Sat through all of this. President Maduro makes it clear that this problem is with the government and not the American people. Everyone knows the American people are at odds with the government. Yeah. And so what's somewhat problematic is that we have political figures in D.C. This speaks on behalf of the American public, saying that, the American people, like I watched a press conference from one of the people in the president's cabinet he gave us a press conference saying that, and he lumps us all in there by saying like the American people want to see justice. The American people, I'm like, my thought is like, I don't agree with this. Like, so I imagine how many other people on there tonight may not approve of these actions here in regards to the fact that we got our own issues here. So what the hell we doing meddling in their own affairs, which makes it obvious that it's not about the American people. It's not about the Venezuelan people. It's all about the special interests in between all that. Those that really truly run the government is what this is all about. And it's becoming more obvious now, so you can't really hide it. And that's what's bad. Yeah, it says, where do they get their polls? They don't take polls. Any corporate mainstream news can come out with a survey that's done by a special interest group. So if you have you can go on Twitter and type in any type of association, and you can just send a poll to that association. They're already biased. And so if you get 1,000 people to take that survey it's already biased in and of itself, it's going to come back favorable in what you sent it out to do in the first place, which then they can lump and say the American people. Well, no, that's just a a private survey that was sent out to a special interest group that, they're in your pockets already. It says another CIA coup in Latin America. The conservative will complain about the illegals coming over. Yeah. Justice system weaponized against the people like medical system does the same. Yep, Johnny boy, that's a good one, man. So it's all about central banks controlling the governments, 100%. It said the U.S. has been wanting Venezuela since Chavez was alive. I do agree. And so it says a question, no answer. So Stephanie, what was your question? Let me go back. I'll go back to your question. Stephanie, I see a question mark, so I want to answer your question. It says we. All I saw was we. I don't see the question. Stephanie, if you had a question that you want me to answer, put it in there again, and I'll try to get to it. It says, don't worry, Ocasio Cortez. Okay, I gotta pronounce her first name correctly because I've been butchered. I just said Miss Cortez. But Miss Cortez said we are going to die in 12 years, so we are done. Now, Blue, I heard a comment or I saw something about that. Didn't listen to it because I already know what she's about. She's a big government, tax the rich and feed and give privileges to the poor, as if that's going to really help people out of their predicament. But yes, I don't really listen to her much, even though she's in power now. So I know her tax bill is talking about taxing the rich 75%, as if like if you're rich, if you're going to stay around and let your wealth be taxed, all you're going to do is look for a loophole. It says, give me $20 in 20 minutes and I'll give you a poll of whatever you want. That's a good one. It says, Google, the plan to save the world. The plan to save the world. The plan to save the world. Girl, go Turbo, the plan to save the world. Is that one of them QAnon video posts? I think I saw that one, if that's what that is. It says Venezuela and the Gulf of Mexico provide 19% of U.S. oil imports. We will absolutely be at war over Venezuela. Yeah. And so, okay, now that you just referenced that, next thought came to mind is that, okay, with the invested interest that China and Russia has put into Venezuela because of the oil, they stand to extract oil that sends it out towards their region, which would then give them more say so in the oil market, if they are the ones that are putting up infrastructure to help develop that thick crude oil out here is down there. So with that being the case, I can see how, okay, anywhere China and Russia are partnering at, we definitely want that to become something that can be disruptive to the status quo. So we need to go down there and intervene in the name of democracy to help out the Venezuelan people. So it says South American networks are talking about Brazil and Colombia invading Venezuela. Do you see that scenario? Juan Isaac, yes, I mentioned that I believe that could be an opportunity to where it's not direct U.S. intervention, but we can stir up troubles on the borders, which can send people inward, backed by the U.S. So we can back Colombia, back Guyana, and then they can go into Venezuela and definitely cause some problems that way. I can see that happen. I can see that being an option. It says Guyana and Venezuela have been going on for ages. Yeah, and so there's no surprise that they are they are backed by the U.S. and backing the U.S. Yeah, man, but this is real talk, and so I thought this is something worthy of getting on, just because I want to share my thoughts as well as get yours, but let you know what I could kind of sense happening with all this noise going on. So let's see if in the next week or two, as these war drums continue to beat, if they beat any louder, we hear, or I come back on and say, yeah, I just read an article that Russia's sending over some troops and China's sending some troops for more joint activity, just to show off in Venezuela that they got Maduro's back without even sending real troops. So expect some type of war games, possibly, or direct injection of military or some missile defense systems coming to Venezuela's aid real soon. And so to prevent that, I could see the U.S. doing something before that aid is sent over this direction. So, yeah. It says the new Brazilian president is a U.S. puppet. Hebrew. I saw that. Anybody that the United States of America approves of has ties and more than likely bought and paid for. And it's the countries and nations where they oppose, that the United States of America oppose the leadership, that are the ones that are in trouble and are on the sanction list. If you want to see who the U.S. is not in favor of and who may not have the full support of the U.S. government, just check the list, the sanction list. There's actually a list out there from the Treasury that you can Google sanctions by the Treasury, and they'll give you a list. Because I think last year I reported on India was just put on that boy because they were importing too much silver and gold. So they were put on the list for doing money laundering or something like that, I think. So yeah. So I agree, Mike. So why don't the Venezuelan people see what's going on with this new guy? I think they do. And I think once again, the stories we're getting out of there are not accurate in reference to the way they're presented to us. Because our mainstream news gives us this war drum side of things that the people are really, really against them. And I've had guests on before. Was it two people last year with the ties to Venezuela mentioned that things are bad, but it's more so in isolated areas. Like the entire country of Venezuela is not just starving right now. There's still grocery stores in Venezuela with full shelves, and there's still portions of the cities down there that you wouldn't even know things were bad. But then you got the favelas along the freeway there that are a sight to see, man. Like man, it's a sight to see, I tell you. And that's why I think I talk about Venezuela so much. I had a chance to go there years ago, and just when I was there, I fell in love, man. It's an unbelievable, beautiful country, man. And even though, you see the pictures of the favelas, those slums and villages right along the freeway, it goes through the valley. And you look out there on the mountains, you see those buildings, man, and it's poverty, but it has a little bit of beauty to it. The colors and, man, it's just, Venezuela, man. I hope to one day be able to go back. That's one place I do want to go. I've been checking to try to go, but come to find out it's not easy anymore. So all your brain exercises have failed socialism so far from the reality of Venezuela. It says all your brain exercises have failed socialism so far from the reality of Venezuela. It says Maduro's laughing at Trump. Yeah, hopefully he can continue to laugh, because I don't think he'll be laughing for much longer unless he gets some help down there. Wouldn't you take the time, take the millions to vote for the government program? Let me see. Not sure what that one's about. So the new guy looks like an Obama clone. Oh man. Yeah, and the fact he went to university here lets me know that he was indoctrinated and probably tagged during his college years as being a guy that they were going to use 10, 15 years down the line once he goes back home and establishes himself and his family, that we're going to come knocking for all those favors that we did for you. And we're going to need you to be self-appointed president. We're going to back you. It says if we start QE and lose Venezuelan oil gas, we'll go from $2.50 to $6 easy. Oh, Blake. That could be 100% true, man. Definitely. Sooner or later, we're gonna start to really feel the impact of inflation, to where it won't be able to be hidden the way it has been done thus far by doctoring the CPI numbers and things. It says Maduro denied in bid to pull 1.2 billion in gold from the Bank of England. Don't know. Yeah, we mentioned that. And so it's not by coincidence that more than likely they won't be getting that gold back. Russia has his back. I ain't gonna say hopefully so, but I just, only thing I can say about this is I anticipate Russia going in there, and I just want to pray that this doesn't escalate to something a lot greater. And somebody mentioned World War III on here, and that's one thing that I never really want to think about. But because the war drums has always been beaten from this part of the world, it just seemed like that might be the last card in the deck that will be played down the line. It says, I just got out from Ghana. I fell in love with the land, people, and culture. I'm returning to April to survey land for a homestead. Gregory, man, that's real, man. That's real right there. So Gregory, so is this the same? I think, Gregory, were we talking earlier on our podcast? Because I heard Guyana. This ain't the first time I heard Guyana today. So let me know if this is the same gentleman that joined us for a podcast. For those that know what I'm talking about, I had the privilege of being a part of a podcast where I was more so talking and focusing on retirement and the baby boomers and how they're in big trouble and it's not going to get any easier. And so I had a lot of great back and forth with those guys. Okay, not me. Okay. So the gentleman I was talking about also has some real estate in Ghana, and was saying how nice it was and saying how far things can go, because he's also doing some things over there. So I actually Googled that, because he said there's a lot of Americans moving over there because of opportunities. And of course, the currency is very favorable in the conversion rate from the dollars to that currency there. So it's no coincidence that I hear the word Ghana in the same day. That must be a sign. So I got to see what's up with that. I've never been to that continent yet, so I got to go. It says lots of Chinese in Venezuela and Ecuador. It seems the Monroe Doctrine is on its last legs. Yeah, it says I don't think that it's obvious that something else is being causing all the problems behind closed doors. Did you know that oil production is correlated with the economic GDP growth? Yes and no. Because typically what I talk about here is monetary issues and how the collision of monetary and fiscal policy seem to be causing all our problems. And so that's tending what I focus on. So as far as the details of oil and the graphs and charts of that nature, I really don't dive into much, just because, as you can tell from the name of the show, at the end of the day, when all this subject matter is done, it's going to be a matter of the Federal Reserve no longer being the world reserve currency. That's what all this is about. I'll Airbnb my properties in the States. Okay, man, you got a game plan. I like that, Greg. I like that, man. Shoot me an email. Let's connect, man. If you go over there, I want to come visit. I would love to live stream from that part of the world. It says again, one country's dropped the UST bonds from the use. That's when the inflation will export to these countries will come crashing back on our shore. Very true, man. We are our own worst enemy. Tony, good point, man. Mike, how do I donate? I appreciate the offer. Depending on what particular method you want to tender in my direction. If you go to rethinkingthedollar.com/donate, you can do crypto or PayPal or super chat through this way if you feel led to do so. I appreciate it. But anyway, people, it's been about 49 minutes, typically longer than my little impromptu live streams go. But I definitely wanted to just share this with you guys, because I imagine that if you weren't watching news, you might not have saw this. And I wanted to point out how lopsided and how East versus West, this is East Coast versus West Coast beef right here. And it's going to be interesting to see how this thing plays out. But I wanted to just connect with you guys and let you know what's going on, let you know my thoughts and whatnot. And thanks for the feedback and all the people that contributed to the chat and whatnot. It's been great. So other than that, people, be safe, be blessed, and enjoy your evening. And I'll catch up with you guys later. As always, if you come across articles or news, comment in this video with that article or shoot me an email and go from there. And then hopefully tonight, more people receive the live stream notification. So I got more people here on a night where we're not scheduled to go. So I imagine everyone here was notified via the notification. And on a little last note there, when you click the bell, so I subscribe to my own channel. So I clicked it and unclicked it and then clicked it again. And then it gives you the option, receive some, receive all, or whatever. I click get all notifications. That's what I click. And that's, I think, what we all click. But over the last 3 days, we all have not been getting notified. So as always, rethinkingthedollar.com. If you guys want to get notified via email, do that. And then also there's a little bit of a text messaging service I'm offering to people as well. So take advantage of that. And what else? So it was every weekend because Monday our lives shall change. Wait, good point, man. But anyway, people, I appreciate you guys for tuning in tonight. Thanks for hanging out with me. See you guys later. Be blessed. Be safe. Peace.